Hello folks! As you're seeing this right now, the Atlantic-Appalachia trip in its entirety has been uploaded onto my channel, so you'd get to see the entirety of that adventure. Now, before watching this, I'd advise you, like my last post-trip storytime epilogue video, to watch all of the previous in-location videos so you'd get more of an understanding of exactly what happened. That's just my forewarning to you all. Some things may not make sense if you didn't watch a good portion of the other videos. So anyway, today seems like springtime has finally dawned upon us. I'm right by this body of water, and if you can tell, if you can correctly guess what this body of water is, well, you're a genius. Just a little taste of this next trip following the Atlantic-Appalachia trip. So the next one, just a little taste. And I mean, we're right by a beach. Let's get on the beach. I mean, come on. This is our epilogue video of the Atlantic-Appalachia trip. Just as a little recap, I went down the Atlantic shore through Delaware and then Maryland, down to southern Virginia, around that Virginia Beach area. Didn't go to Virginia Beach, but around that area. And then I went up through the heart of Virginia, and eventually I made it as west as the Appalachian Mountains, or not really the Appalachian Mountains, but the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are the outermost, the easternmost portion of the Appalachian Mountain system. And from there I went north through northern Virginia into West Virginia and back into Pennsylvania. It was a long 2-week trip, and naturally it is just impossible to share with you all the details of the trip, especially, well, the ones I would have rather revealed at this time rather than in the moment. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So with every trip that we set forth on for the epilogue, I'd like to incorporate a central theme or a lesson that can be learned. In this case, I learned a very valuable lesson, and that lesson is not everything you can really take for granted. And of course, I'm going to explain the details of why I'm saying not everything can be taken for granted, even if you work for everything. And before I get into the details of this video, of the story, I'd like to say that this video is going to be a lot shorter, because the last video, that was like 45 minutes of raw footage. That was a pain to edit. So this is going to be a little shorter of a story, but the same idea applies. I'm going to tell you all the story and give sort of my perspective on what happened, what transpired, and then give sort of a lesson that I learned from this. So essentially, on my travels, I am paying for everything. I am paying for gas money, I am paying for accommodations at campsites, I am paying for food and my rations and anything else in between. So largely, I have worked to get enough money to go on these travels. Wasn't easy, but I managed to do it. But even though I can call all of my travels a product of my hard work, I can't always take things for granted. So as I traveled to the first few locations, Vineland and then Lewis, I was having fun. It was a great time. We saw some great things. Largely enough, I was just living for the moment and thinking, wow, this is great. What a fun adventure we're going on. But I sort of started to get comfortable, and when comfort happens, that's when sort of a sense of danger emerges, usually in every circumstance. Danger or bad luck, or whatever happens out of a state of, I guess, complacency. So generally, to give you all an inside scoop to what happens on my travels, I use my trailer, I go to the campsite, I unhitch the trailer, and then use just my car to go to these proxy locations. It makes it a lot more simple and a lot more affordable. Taking a trailer to the actual spot is very difficult, so I'd rather just take my car, go to whatever, a parking spot, a parking garage, or just some place in the middle of nowhere to park my car rather than take this long thing. So what I do is only take my car to these proxy locations. And I've largely always been a very cautious and conservative driver, always watching out for other driving. Sometimes when things are really bad, I like to just take a defensive stance, let other cars pass me or whatever. Just that type of thing. So I've never really had any sort of bad luck with driving. I've always been lucky enough to avoid things. So when I went to Ocean City, Maryland, I was just cautious, but very complacent, as I said. I just thought, okay, things are gonna be great. I'm gonna have a good time on the beach, have some fun, all of that. But literally minutes before I was about to just start shooting, something very, I guess, traumatizing happened to me. You see, Ocean City, Maryland is a tourist place. Lots of people go there, so there's a lot of traffic. And I'm sure you can all tell where this was going. I was literally a block away from the parking lot. And there was this lane where it was 3 lanes. It was a 3-lane road. There wasn't any traffic going the other way, so all I really felt was, okay, I just gotta turn into the leftmost lane in order to turn into the parking lot. And that's where something that really haunted me for the rest of the trip happened. You see, sadly, even though I looked in both mirrors, I guess I didn't see something. Maybe it was in the blind spot, but of course I take full responsibility for it. I was not being cautious enough. I turned to the left and I bumped into another car. In the minutes after, I was just completely shook. I was going from a state of mind of having fun to, oh my gosh, not only is my trip to Ocean City, Maryland over, my entire plans for the year are over. I thought the car's broken, the other car probably broken, to a point where, you know, it was totaled. You probably couldn't drive it. I got very lucky. Even though I didn't think I was that lucky that day, I was extremely lucky. This was my first time really affecting another party with my driving. And it was very hard to live it down. I have a very concerned conscience. Whenever I do something wrong, or even I think I do something wrong, I think about it way too much. When such things happen, I really don't let myself live it down. Like, I think over and over. And in this case, I really should. I rightfully so was thinking over and over, oh my gosh, everything's over. All the plans are over. Everything I've worked for is over. So simply put, I made a mistake. I hit into the car. The worst case scenarios were rolling through my mind, everything. Anything that could possibly happen, I thought, okay, this is over. Like I said, I was very lucky that day. What I thought was a catastrophic blow to another car was simply some superficial damage to that car and some very, very, even less impactful damage on my car. And I shouldn't be concerned at all about my side. In the moment, I was only concerned about the other party, because I'm very lucky to be going on these things. Other people might be living their life having to work day after day after day. I don't know what circumstance the other party was in. So I was very thankful that the other party could just drive on forth, and then I could still be lucky enough to resume that travel that day in Ocean City, Maryland. I will say it once again, it was my fault. I take responsibility. Frankly, I don't think I deserve to have continued that day as if it was just a normal day. I gotta say though, if I did not make that mistake, I would have not learned this very valuable lesson in life. Of course, there were other things in my life that, you know, I hear the phrase, don't take things for granted all the time. But now I was truly in a moment where I had to not take things for granted. The rest of the trip was fairly normal. I had a lot of fun. It was quite an adventure. But nevertheless, I was in this mindset of when I'm in a certain location, I shouldn't be having this adventure. This should be canceled. Like, I should be working to pay hypothetical damages because I could have gotten so much more unlucky. So as a result, in tandem with this continuous guilt running through my mind, it was also a blessing in disguise, because I took every day as a gift. If I went to a certain location, met certain people, had good things to eat, saw so many different things, it was a gift. It was almost like I had a second chance at this trip. And so because of that, and the way I viewed this trip from thenceforth, it made my experiences much more enjoyable. But minor things that didn't sort of really go my way, I learned to adapt to it, because I had this new mindset where today's a gift. At least I wasn't hurt. At least I didn't hurt another party with the car thing. At least today, it wasn't as bad as the day in Ocean City, Maryland. At least today, I'm getting to experience these things. So generally, don't worry about the future. Insurance is a very good thing to have. Insurance saved the day. That's what happened. But from Richmond up into Harrisonburg and into the Shenandoah National Park, up into Harper's Ferry and then Altoona, I was having a lot more fun. I was completely just so much more jovial. I was living for the moment, having much more of an adventure, because constantly I was thinking I shouldn't be going on this adventure. Something much worse could have happened. And so I saw a lot more beauty in this trip from this mistake I made. If that makes sense for y'all. I'm sure lots of people like me beat themselves up for the mistakes they make. But I think the beauty in life is that we do make mistakes. And from those mistakes we can learn to better ourselves, whether it's to better the qualities we have or to be, in my case, a lot more cautious on the road, even if I previously thought I had been cautious on the road. So going back to the lesson learned of don't take things for granted even if you worked for it. I saved up all this money for my travels, but I had to learn that at any moment it can be ripped away from you. And based on my experience, I got very lucky and that I could just literally continue the trip. I got so lucky. One could be having the time of their life and then the next day get a call that there's some emergency that they have to return home to, or some other circumstance, or maybe you get into a car crash that is much, much, much worse, and then have to abandon all of your plans. And that's just, I guess that's just how life works. So once again, I will say I got very lucky. So that's my lesson learned. That's the moral of the story. Never think you're just immune from anything that happens. Of course, things are sorted out now. Everything's pretty much taken care of. I'm telling you this weeks later after I've had time to dwell and think on it. Believe it or not, I was tempted to just drive back home out of guilt, out of shame. But then I thought, I don't know if I can live with myself if I just drove home. What happened happened, and I couldn't control what happened in the past. What I can control is what happens in the future, the perspective I have on my experiences in the future. So I just decided the best way to learn from this is to pull the bootstraps up and keep on trucking. But yeah, that's the story. I hope you enjoyed it. What would you do if you were in a similar situation where you have literally your first sort of accident that you inflicted? How would you rebound from a dire mistake? Travel isn't all about the glamorous things. It's about the lows as well as the highs. Because one thing I hate more than a lot is all these vlog channels for travel that make the idea in viewers' minds that travel's all about the good times. No, it's about the struggles and the growth you face through overcoming these obstacles. One of the missions that I have here at the Coverage Project is sort of to be very transparent with you all, to give you this interactive travel experience more so than other channels. And one way I do that is by sharing with you the life lessons that I am learning in real time. And so I think stories like this, as hard as they are for me to endure, I think that they give very good life lessons. As much as there are more travels to come as well, there are more struggles and obstacles that we'll have to endure and overcome as well too. So seated at the shore of this body of water, I'm not gonna name because here at the Epilogue videos, you're just gonna have to guess. I will say it's a preview of what's next to come. More travels to come. I will see you at the next location.